Stimați participanți, pentru participare pe platforma Zoom sunt disponibile trei limbi de lucru. Faceți click pe butonul de mai jos Traducere și selectați limba de care aveți nevoie. Уважаемые участники пресс-конференции, для участия онлайн на платформе Zoom доступны три языка звукового сопровождения. Нажав на кнопку внизу экрана «Перевод», вы сможете выбрать необходимый вам язык. Dear press conference participants, for online participation on the Zoom platform, three audio languages are available. By clicking the translation button at the bottom of the screen, you can select the language you need. Thank you.
Bună ziua, stimați reprezentanți ai mass media. Suntem bucuroși să vă avem astăzi la conferința de presă, care este dedicată cauzei Evghenia Gutul. Astăzi, alături de noi, avocații Sergiu Moraru și eu, Natalia Bayram, îi avem prezenți pe avocații din Franța, William Julié și Gonzalo Boye. După cum cunoașteți, avocații internaționali au fost de acord să colaboreze cu noi pe cauza Evgheniei Gutul. Ei deja au examinat toate cele volume a dosarului penal de învinuire a Evgheniei Gutul și au format o opinie referitor la această cauză pe care dânsii o să vă prezinte, după care vom trece la rubrica de întrebări și răspunsuri. Dar mai întâi de toate, am să rog pe colegii noștri să se prezinte pe scurt. Și vom începe cu William Julié.
Thank you very much. So I'm William Julié. I'm a lawyer in Paris, France. It's on. Yeah. Oh, okay. It was not on. Sorry. Okay. So I'm William Julié. I'm a Paris bar registered lawyer. I have been a criminal lawyer for 25 years now, and I do mostly international work with a lot of human rights cases. I have and I represent clients in many countries of the world, in the EU, but also outside the EU. I have experienced jurisdictions maybe on all continents, Africa, Asia, America, and obviously also Europe. It's my first trip to Moldova, so I'm very happy to be here and to be able to understand better the culture of this country and its ongoing difficulties. We will get to dive into the case of Evghenia Gutul, of course, because she is the reason for our presence here at this press conference, which, and this is a boutade, as we say in French, when we organized, because we had an event in Paris last week, a press conference, and we were asked by the hotel, who was kind enough to host us, not to have too many cameras, etc., because it was a political event. So I obviously emailed the hotel saying that we would be careful, but that the event was absolutely not political. What we are doing here, at least I can speak for myself, and I think Gonzalo, and also for Natalia and Sergiu, we are lawyers. We're not doing anything political here. We're not taking sides on any political matter. Our line of work, our job is to represent our clients, but maybe more than that is to defend the rule of law and to make sure when we travel abroad that we guarantee for our clients, but also for everyone, the highest level of judicial protection, meaning of their fundamental rights. And these rights are extremely important because they are the only guarantee that someone gets a fair trial and also is treated decently if ever the individual concerned by the prosecution are deprived of their freedom, which is the case of Evghenia Gutul, who is in a prison cell as we are going to speak today. So I think that's it for now, and I will maybe for myself focus on, as Natalia said, my conclusions on the review of this court decision, first instance, which is, as you can see, very consistent. There's not far from 400 pages or more. And I will share with you my analysis of this document because, as I said, we're not doing politics here. We're here to discuss a technical case. We'll try not to be too boring, but a technical case. And the idea is that everyone in this room and in the media in Moldova, but also outside of Moldova, can make their own assessment and decide whether what we are bringing in terms of our certainty that grave violations of due process have taken place first instance, it will be for each one of you to decide whether you think that this is correct or not. And if it is, that I think will bring additional hope for the appeal process, which is going to start taking place in a couple of weeks in Moldova, will be different compared to what happened in first instance.
Good afternoon. My name is Gonzalo Boye. I'm practicing lawyer in Madrid, Spain, for the last quarter of a century, which is sometimes something that I shouldn't say, a quarter of a century, because it makes me very old. But we have a lot of experience in international cases. And in my view, the purpose of this journey to Chisinau today was three things. First, to meet with Evghenia. Second, to coordinate with Sergiu and with Natalia. And third, to talk with you about our views, not only of the case, but also on the situation of Evghenia. The first purpose of the meeting of the trip has not been possible until now, because until now, and after nearly 2 months of requesting papers and certificates and documents, we have not received the authorization to visit her. This is absolutely not normal, that the lawyers of somebody in a prison cannot visit her. We have even been requested to provide with the diploma of when we graduate at the university, which unfortunately in his case and my case is a long time ago, but at the end we are collecting all those documents that has, in my case, never been asked in any country, and we normally visit people in prison in different countries, but 2 months to allow us to visit her is too long, especially taking into consideration the judicial scenario that we are facing in the next few weeks and the urgency of speaking with her and talking about what we are going to do and how we are coordinating with all the legal team. But on the other hand, as William has said, I think it's very important to make clear something here. There is a problem of rule of law. I mean, this problem is affecting Evghenia, affecting other people, but also clearly a problem of rule of law. And I have the impression that yesterday, many of the medias or some of the medias also suffered that situation here. So at the end of the day, we all know what we are talking about. And I think it will be good if we all four talk and then open the floor to questions, because that will make it more interesting for you.
Bună ziua, vă salut și eu pe toți, vă mulțumesc că ați venit. Anterior am mai comunicat cu reprezentanții mass media și am informat societatea despre numeroasele încălcări admise atât de către procurori cât și la examinarea dosarului în prima instanță, în instanța de judecată. Cumva am lăsat o perioadă și nu am comunicat nimic despre ultimele evenimente și ultimele știri care au fost imediat după pronunțarea sentinței. Cumva consider că la fel au fost speculative, pentru că, vă spuneam, miza acestei sentințe a fost pe de o parte de a speria o bună parte a societății, în special foștii angajați a partidului politic, Șor, dar ați văzut imediat după pronunțarea sentinței care a fost reacția societății. A fost una de fapt negativă. Asta e ceea ce ne-a bucurat, asta e că societatea a înțeles că a fost o sentință nedreaptă. Și pentru a opri cumva această reacție a societății, s-a intervenit cu acele știri prin care s-au comunicat precum că atât procurorul cât și judecătorul au fost speriați sau intimidați sau nu știu ce a fost. Nu vrem să ne expunem referitor la aceste aspecte, așa ni s-a comunicat că să face o anchetă referitor la acest aspect. Dar noi, ca apărători a doamnei Gutul, vrem să scoatem în evidență, să fixăm toate aceste încălcări care au loc și care continuă și în prezent și să informăm societatea, să informăm organele abilitate, atât Curtea de Apel, Curtea Supremă, dar și Curtea Europeană, organele internaționale care au competență de a se expune dacă într-adevăr au loc asemenea încălcări. Împreună cu colegii am analizat sentința, am depus contestația, am depus cererea de apel în privința acestei sentințe, care se va examina, prima ședință fiind fixată pe 8 octombrie și vrem să, până la 8 octombrie, să reușim împreună să ne pregătim ca să putem scoate în evidență toate acele încălcări care se comit și au loc și în prezent, atâta timp cât am menționat că acest arest este unul vădit ilegal, iar în prezent autoritățile întreprind cumva acțiuni pentru ca acest caz să fie cât mai puțin mediatizat, ca și cum s-au luat de o grijă, au emis o sentință de condamnare, au închis-o în penitenciarul 13 pe Evghenia Gutul și Svetlana Pupan, să nu uităm, este în aceeași situație. Și gata, misiunea de bază ca și cum este rezolvată. Vrem tuturor să vă spunem că nu este uitată această situație, pentru că este una vădită abuzivă și ilegală și vom depune toate eforturile ca și apărători pentru a exclude aceste încălcări care au loc în prezent și a reveni pe, așa cum spune Constituția și legea, în albia legalității și nu ilegalității. Vă mulțumesc!
Mulțumesc colegilor mei pentru această introducere care ați făcut-o. Totodată țin să mulțumesc reprezentanților mass media și societății civile pentru interesul sporit pe care îl manifestați față de cauza Evgheniei Gutul, pentru că, într-adevăr, în opinia atât a avocaților din Moldova cât și avocaților internaționali, este un caz de rezonanță care merită a fi monitorizat în vederea deci, determinării ca să fie respectate drepturile Evgheniei Gutul și a Svetlanei Popan și să fie înfăptuită justiția. Iar acum, stimați reprezentanți ai mass media, trecem la rubrica de întrebări și răspunsuri, iar pentru a face comunicarea noastră mult mai lesne, am să vă rog fiecare care are câte o întrebare să ridice mâna, să se prezinte, da? Și să menționați față de cine concret sau în general aveți o întrebare.
Шкаль Ирина, канал «Первый в Молдове». Оппозиция считает, что Евгения Гуцул является политзаключенной. С точки зрения закона, что означает этот статус и на какие решения от международных юридических структур? Еще раз. Мгм.
Yes, I was hearing two translations at the same time.
Так, конечно. Микрофон.
Да-да-да. Мгм. Оппозиция считает, что Евгения Гуцул является политзаключенной. С точки зрения закона, что означает этот статус и на какие решения от международных юридических структур в этом случае можно рассчитывать? Спасибо большое.
Big question. 5 questions in one. Yeah, huge question. Sorry. Yeah, I was saying, yeah, huge questions, at least 4 questions in one. What does it mean when it is said that the case is politically motivated? I would start saying that the first thing is to bring evidence that there is a political motivation. You can't just throw words outside without bringing evidence of what you are saying, and these are serious accusations. We are not prosecutors, but we can also make accusations when we think that things are not done properly. The reason why we think that there is evidence of a political color in this case is that there are, and I will list them, obvious violations of fair process during the investigation and during the trial. There are 2 main stages: pre-trial, the investigation phase, and trial. Obviously, everything I am saying is under the control of Natalia and Sergiu. They are the ones who have been witnessing what happened here on the ground, and we are bringing our second line conclusions. We think that there are, as I just said, numerous violations of fair process. When there are violations of fair process in any country of the world, there are usually 2 explanations. One is that the judicial system of the country does never authorize, enable a fair process to take place. These countries are countries where you don't want to be a defendant. There are dictatorships in the world, in many countries of the world, where no one ever gets a fair process. This is sad, but it is as it is. I understand that Moldova, and this is great news for everyone, intends to be a rule of law compliant state, a democracy that it claims not to be a dictatorship, and that means that there must be a judicial system that functions compliant with fundamental rules. And I also understand that President Maria Sandu was elected on a program pro-European. Being pro-European does not only mean in words, it means that you have to act in a way where you prove that it's not only pretending to be a democracy, but acting and making sure that principles of democracy are not violated. This is more than words. So if you find numerous violations in a judicial case, as I said, one explanation is that the judicial system does not function at all. And I tend to think that this is not always the case in Moldova. But if in one case this is what is happening, there's a reason. And the reason is usually when the violations are not systematical, it is usually that there is a political reason for these violations. And that in one specific case, what should function does not function. And I believe that we have enough violations in this case to evidence the fact that there's a political motivation. So that's the answer, my answer to your first question. And maybe just to support what I just said, I can list these violations very briefly for you. And as I said, under the control of Natalia and Sergiu. But our understanding is that the investigation against Evghenia Gutul went on for several years. During this period, she was not in a position to defend herself. Raids were carried out. Prosecutor carried out his investigation, and she was kept outside of the investigation, which is understandable. In France, the system is the same. Investigations are secret, and that is okay. The problem is at one stage, when you are brought into the investigation, you need to have enough time to exercise some rights, to defend yourself. And what I was told, and what I have no reason to believe this is not what happened, because it was also explained in court, is that was given 2 weeks, 15 days to the lawyers here in Moldova to review the case, study the case, and possibly make demands for additional investigation acts to be carried out, to challenge the legality of some of the investigations that were carried out during these years by the prosecution. The bundle, the criminal case, I understand, is 67 volumes, more than 16,000 pages. No copy on a computer was given to the defense lawyers. And the defense lawyers were invited only to read the case in court or in an office, with opening hours, which are obviously not 24 hours out of 24. And this is obviously an impossible task. So the accused person and her lawyers were not able to exercise their rights. The European Court of Human Rights has sentenced a couple of years ago Turkey in a case which is absolutely identical, very similar, where I think a 20,000 page criminal bundle was presented to the defense team with, I think, 20 days to study it. The European Court considered that that was not enough. So this is a clear violation, which shows that there is an intent to stop the accused person and her legal defense team to defend their client and to defend herself when it comes to Evghenia Gutul. Then during the trial, numerous requests were made by the defense lawyers. All the requests were rejected. I think 200 witnesses were requested to be interviewed. Only 20 or something like that were interviewed. And these interviews occupy maybe only 10 or 15 pages of this 400-page decision. The prosecutor and the court denied 180 other witnesses to be interviewed. I did not find one word in here explaining how was made the decision to accept some witnesses and to refuse others. All the requests for challenge of the legality of some of the investigations carried out, the raids, phone tappings, all were rejected. There's 5 or 6 lines in 400 pages explaining why. One word. All are rejected because unfounded. Unfounded why? You have hundreds of pages studying the accusation, so-called evidence. The witnesses called by the prosecutor occupy 10 times more pages, knowing that they are less. I think there were 16 or something like that. You have 60 pages of, or 40, 50 of interview of accusation witnesses, and you have only 10 pages for defense. Why this difference? Other requests were made by the defense, appointment of a financial expert. There are a lot of numbers in this case, which are important. Rejected. Why? One does not know. And the last point, and I will finish on the technical, but I think these are very important issues. Then comes the sentence, 7 years sentence, which is obviously a very harsh sentence. This sentence is rendered by one unique judge sitting. And I understand that this judge had already sat on another case where first instance was decided that existed an organized criminal group. This case has to do with the banking case of Mr. Shaw. And this judge had made a decision in this previous case saying there is an organized criminal group here. So she had made already half of the decision that is going to be the decision against Ms. Gutul, because Evghenia Gutul is sentenced not under the, I would say, only technical electoral code provisions, which is accepting financing for a campaign which comes from abroad or violating electoral code requirements, but she is sentenced for having been an accomplice to an organized criminal group, which is not a group that is clearly explained what is made of in this decision, but one understands that is linked to this other case. But this other case, we do not know anything about. The only person who did was this judge because she knew about this case. And this raises obvious questions about the independence of this court, the ability for this judge to be impartial, to be independent in her review of the case. There is also, I understand, thanks to our Moldovan colleagues, a provision in the procedural criminal code here, saying that when a case is complex and sensitive in regards to national public order, that there is a requirement for not only one judge to be leading a case, but a college of judges, because collegiality is supposed to help an impartial decision to be made. When judges talk together, when they think of what the proper decision must be, and also during the trial, it's better to have 3 minds looking at a case when it's complicated and sensitive. If Ms. Gutul's case is not as well both complex and of interest for national public order, which case will be? Why only one judge? this also raises questions and serious doubts about the independence of the process, about the court, about the judge that made this decision. And I will now finish. So the sentence is 7 years, which is a very harsh sentence, which is labeled, and this comes back to your question about the political nature, not only a violation of electoral code provisions, but also labeled to be connected with an organized criminal group, which is something that one does not understand, one cannot understand, and is not explained in this court decision. And not only this decision is made on this provision with this very harsh sentence, but Evghenia Gutul is immediately arrested and sent to prison, knowing that my understanding is that she had been under house arrest for a long time. She was not caught with a forged passport trying to smuggle out of the country. She was complying with her judicial obligations. She had not committed any other criminal offenses other than the ones for which she is prosecuted in this court case. She is the mother of 2 young children. I understand that there are provisions in the criminal Moldovan code protecting parents of young children, requiring that other ways than imprisonment must be considered for obvious reasons. And there's not one word explaining why it was needed that she is immediately incarcerated, knowing that she appealed and that she is still considered to be presumed innocent in the Moldovan judicial system and legal framework. So why, if there's some hope that the real appeal trial will take place with new review of evidence on each side, why was it so urgent and impossible not to enable the accused to appeal and to attend her trial on appeal as she did in first instance during more than a year? Why do you have in the press, a few weeks before the sentence is rendered, statements by, I understand, the Justice Minister, the President of the Republic, announcing that if in a few weeks people should not be worried because sentences are going to be decided by the court? Since when do people who are acting as representatives in government announce that judges are going to sentence someone in court? That does not happen in rule of law compliant states, democracies. So why all this? Why this rush? And I think this gives you also an answer to, is there a political color in this case? Our answer is yes, not because we are doing politics, not because we are on our side or another side, but just because all these violations are obvious, and someone needs at one point to take responsibility for them, and our job is to make sure that this happens as soon as possible.
In very short terms, this case is, for me, clearly politically motivated, because not even criminals are treated in the way that Evghenia has been treated, and no even normal criminal cases are treated in the way that this case is being treated. Yesterday, I discovered that on the 1st of January, we will have roaming when we come to Moldova. The question is when the rule of law will roam to Moldova to avoid cases like this. Because being part of the European Union is not only having roaming on the phones and other advantages, it's also having certain obligations. And one of the obligations is to respect the rule of law for everybody, and especially for people belonging to minorities. And this case is not only Evgenia's case. It's a case, a European case, because affect the credibility of the European Union. If we consider that Moldova should be part, Moldova should consider that they should accept our values and the rule of law.
Dar în câteva cuvinte vreau să completez răspunsul la această întrebare. În toată lumea și în Moldova, la fel, atunci când persoana nu a comis o încălcare, nu trebuie să află în închisoare. Nu are pentru ce să poarte o pedeapsă penală. Ori temeiul real pentru o pedeapsă este o faptă prejudiciabilă, o faptă prevăzută de legea penală. Și în presă, și nu sunt sigur că toată lumea a înțeles de ce este acuzată Evghenia Gutul, precum că ea a acceptat mijloace bănești pentru partidul politic șor. Niciodată. Și toți care au activat în cadrul partidului politic șor, dar și toți oamenii care au activat vreodată în orice care organizație, în orice care întreprindere, poate ușor să înțeleagă că o persoană, spre exemplu, care este responsabilă de exemplu, ca bine să funcționeze acest televizor sau să fie pahare suficiente pe masă, nu are nicio treabă cu activitatea financiară a întreprinderii. Contabilitatea cu banii care vin și care ies, cât a costat această apă, nu știe persoana care a pus-o pe această masă. Și dacă e să judecăm, să apreciem lucrurile ca și în cazul doamnei Gutul, reiese că oricine activează într-o întreprindere poate fi tras la răspundere pentru modul în care au intrat sau au ieșit anumiți bani din acea întreprindere. Păi iată, Evghenia Gutul, fără ca să aibă vreodată atribuții privitor la finanțele partidului politic, fără să fie vreodată contabil, fără să fie vreodată, nu știu, împuternicită cu asemenea atribuții, a fost trasă la răspundere pentru asemenea fapte. De ce spunem că la întrebarea dumneavoastră, că acest dosar este unul politic? Pentru că atunci când persoana nu a făcut o faptă de care este acuzată, ea nu trebuie să află în penitenciare, nu are de ce să poartă o pedeapsă penală. În cazul dat, lucrurile au fost făcute în câteva etape. Prima etapă, procurorul absolut ilegal, adică contrar prevederilor legale, normelor prevăzute, a divizat aceleași fapte, le-a divizat în două. Vedeți că în permanent spune că pentru două capete de acuzare, pentru două infracțiuni. Asta este fals. El le-a divizat artificial, fără să existe un temei, pentru ca să îi ofere instrumentele necesare judecătorului, ca judecătorul să dea o pedeapsă. Pentru că dacă era o singură faptă, era ieșit din comun ca pentru prima dată persoanei să-i dai un termen de închisoare. Așa ceva în Moldova nu a fost niciodată. De asta, procurorul intenționat a divizat în două perioade diferite aceleași fapte și a oferit posibilitatea judecătorului, iar judecătorul, apreciind cu aceleași argumente, în lipsa unor fapte și în lipsa unor probe, a emis o sentință pe care a condamnat-o. Și atunci când nu există un motiv legal, atunci lucrurile nu poate să aibă fără niciun motiv. Da? Atunci ne face să credem că acest lucru s-a întâmplat din motive politice. Mai mult ca atât, această sentință și acest arest care este în prezent împiedică tridimensional, aș spune. Pe de o parte, o împiedică pe doamna Gutul să meargă la serviciu în calitate de bașcan. Pe de altă parte, o împiedică, încalcă drepturile de mamă, să fie alături de familia sa și de copiii săi. Și pe de altă parte este în penitenciar fără să comită nicio infracțiune. Adică este condamnat ilegal, așa să spun. Iată de ce părerea noastră și cred că nu doar în cazul Evgheniei Gutul, dar în oricare dosar în care o persoană care practică activitate politică și nu a comis o faptă ilegală este plasată în penitenciar, atunci poți să înțelegi că acest lucru este anume din motive politice și nu din alte motive. Pentru că din motive legale a codului penal și a codului de procedură, a Constituției, nu există un temei pentru care doamna Gutul să se afle în penitenciar. Vă mulțumesc.
Următoarea întrebare. Da. Și am să vă rog la microfon. Da.
Bună ziua, Maria Stoian, reporter Canal 5. Vreau să întreb în ce măsură au fost respectate drepturile doamnei Evghenia Gutul la o justiție echitabilă și imparțială.
O să încerc eu să vă răspund, ulterior o să, poate și colegii o să aibă ceva de spus. După cum spuneam și anterior, după fiecare ședință, practic, vă mai spuneam ce se întâmplă în acest dosar. Ce a fost vădit de la început, pentru că un dosar atât de voluminos niciodată nu a fost examinat atât de rapid. Această viteză cu care s-a mișcat acest dosar, puteți să verificați și după numărul de ședințe de judecată și după ce s-a întâmplat în acele ședințe de judecată. Nu s-a mai întâmplat până acum niciodată. Este unul. Și a doilea, privitor la drepturile doamnei Gutul, eu vreau să vă spun că acest dosar a fost unul simulat. Simulat din ce punct de vedere? Adică, iarăși, fără ca persoana să comită ceva, este cusut în 65-67 de volume și expediat în instanța de judecată. După cum v-au comunicat și colegii, la etapa de terminare a urmăririi penale s-au oferit mai puțin de 2 săptămâni. Ca să fiu mai exact, începând cu 9 zile lucrătoare. Așa, ca să fiu exact, să nu denaturez datele. 9 zile lucrătoare pentru 65 de volume, pentru mai mult de 20.000 de pagini și fișiere, nu știu, mii de fișiere. Audio, video. Este vădit că niciun om nu este capabil să prelucreze această informație într-un asemenea timp. Dosarul este aruncat repede în instanța de judecată, fără să ne se ofere posibilitatea să contestăm anumite acțiuni, să prezentăm anumite probe sau să facem acele acțiuni la etapa de urmărire penală. La etapa în instanța de judecată, practic toate cererile părții apărării au fost respinse. Inclusiv pentru o expertiză financiară. Inclusiv pentru audierea martorilor. Martorii din 250 de martori s-au acceptat doar, iarăși, de fațadă. Doar 15 martori. Dintre care 12 martori, instanța spune, puteți să-i aduceți după buna voastră alegere, dar 2 martori dintr-o categorie cea mai importantă, persoane indicate în învinuire, spune, dar dintre ăștia la alți 50, numai pe ăștia 2 vă dăm voie. În rest, tot a fost respins. Și martori, și expertiză, și chiar și cercetarea materialelor. Codul scrie expres, legea scrie expres cum trebuie să aibă acest lucru. Procurorul răsfoia dosarul, spunea ce se află în volum fără să cerceteze documentele. Instanța lăsa, spunea, procurorul poate să facă cum vrea acest proces. Când a venit rândul să ne dea voie nouă să examinăm documentele și probele. Sau mai bine zis, să demonstrăm că lipsa de probe nu ni s-a permis. Și iată, acest lucru s-a întâmplat de fiecare dată doar pentru a grăbi cât mai repede emiterea acestei sentințe. Ce nu s-ar fi întâmplat în judecătoria Buicani, ce nu am fi demonstrat noi, practic toți martorii acuzării au venit și au zis niciodată Gutul nu a avut competență financiare. Niciodată Gutul nu s-a atins de finanțele partidului politic. Niciodată. Și asta și martorii care i-au adus procurorul, asta nu martorii care am solicitat noi să fie audiați. persoane care au ocupat funcții similare cu Gutul. Adică cum în funcții în care a activat, fix așa a activat și ceilalți martori care au spus exact, niciodată Gutul nu a avut tangență cu și nu a avut atribuții în domeniul financiar. Nimeni nu putea să o întrebe pe Gutul, acceptă sau nu anumite mijloace financiare. Și n-a întrebat-o și n-am auzit și n-am văzut ca ea să aibă treabă cu asta. Nu. Ce nu s-ar fi întâmplat în acest proces, oricum judecătorul aștepta cu nerăbdare să emită această sentință. Ori altfel nu poți să explici pe baza la ce a ajuns la această concluzie. N-ai cum să explici, că nu există nimic.
Aș vrea să aflu și părerea avocaților, în ce măsură au fost respectate drepturile doamnei Gutul, după părerea dumneavoastră.
We four are the lawyers. Okay. Let me be honest with you. You have asked about the violation of the rights of Evghenia. And what about our rights? You haven't asked about that. And we have a main right to know the truth. And the only way to establish the truth is through a fair process. And they have prohibited us, through the work of our colleagues, to have a fair trial which can establish a valid truth. And I think that everybody got that right violated. And we are forgetting about that because fair trial is based on that. But violation of fair trials, I think all of them, today, William has explained several aspects of the trial, but I start saying something. Why we cannot visit Evghenia in prison? Why are they putting so many impediments, bureaucratic impediments, to visit her when we can visit clients everywhere? Are they afraid of our work? Are they really afraid that we talk with her and that we can understand everything, have all the elements, and do a strong defense internationally in Europe? My answer is yes, they should be afraid, but they will not stop us by impeding us to visit her. So I think the violations is a list of violations, and what we are doing now is mainly selecting which goes to each mechanism internationally in order to claim against those violations, because sometimes you have one violation of fundamental right, two violations, three violations, but here the list is a never ending. It's a constant violation. How can somebody be convicted in first instance and sent to prison for as long as the appeal takes? Could take, my colleagues say, 3 months to 3 years, maybe an appeal. And she will be sitting in prison because she's considered guilty. So what is the sense of the second instance, and how does that accomplish with the European law or the European Convention of Human Rights? That's a violation. Prison should be the exception. And in this case, it's not the exception. And as William said before, there is no risk of escaping. There is no risk of destruction of evidence. This is a punishment in advance. And this may reflect the opinion even of the appeal chamber.
Maybe just to add, because you asked about the list of violations, we had already answered. So the main violation you have is Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is right to a fair trial, fair process. You have a violation possibly under Article 13, which is abuse of power. We will get to that. Effective remedy, you need to be able to have an effective remedy. Are we going to have an effective remedy on appeal? This is one of the reasons of our presence here. When we were meeting Evghenia's family, her mother, her husband, I was very moved by the way they were thanking us as international lawyers to be here. And I was thinking, my God, what am I? I'm no different to Sergiu or Natalia. We're defense lawyers. What am I? And the huge hope that was in Evgenia's mother and husband's mouth, saying, thanks to you, we might have a little chance, a little hope. What does that mean? That means that the impression after this first instance process, and there's been tremendous and huge work done by Sergiu and Natalia, who should not need any support from abroad. Why are we here? We are here because things are not being done properly. And the question is, I said, we are making accusations ourselves now. And I would just like to put this as a question for the floor, so to be discussed. But we have been doing a bit of work on the situation here in Moldova at a higher level than just Evgenia's case. We have been looking into whether there are systemic violations of fundamental rights, of institutional democratic principles. And not later than just a bit before the conference, I was interviewed by a colleague of yours from a Moldovan media, can't remember the name, and she asked me at the end whether I knew that their offices had been raided, I think yesterday, with everything ruined apparently inside the building. I haven't seen it. And I understand that there were several raids carried out in medias in Moldova, not later than yesterday or the day before. Coincidence? Is it because we are here? So I thank everyone for the very warm welcome that we received with my colleague and Gonzalo. We feel very welcome here. And we haven't experienced any problems, and I hope and I guess that we won't. But what about people here? What about, I understand the fact that some colleagues, some lawyers fear to be themselves prosecuted, or are sent to jail, that their families are under pressure, that there's a climate of fear, that medias apparently have been closed down, and this is not new in the past years. That I understand there's a special emergency law which is applied to, that enables the government to make decisions without explaining why they are closing media down. What about that? What about the fact that I understand, and if I'm saying things which are wrong, I'm very happy to be challenged by anyone. The prosecutor of Gagauzia was removed, and that now there's another prosecutor, which is controlled by the central authorities of this country. A court of appeal was apparently active in Comrade, dealing with electoral validation process. And I understand that this court has been removed and that it is another court now dealing with that. I understand that candidates for electoral moments, for elections, are excluded from participating. So I understand that this may sometimes be needed, but there is a pattern here. And I think we also have questions which are, can someone explain all these changes? And we're not going to remain just sitting on our chairs, would it be in Madrid or in Paris or anywhere we are. We're going to put together material. We are going to bring independent expert reports who will be better placed than me to confirm what I have started to understand. And if all this is true, people will need to explain this, and especially because I understand that support is expected in Moldova from the EU, But this is a two-way process. You can't expect from the EU support if you don't show that you are behaving as you should. You can't expect EU presidents and prime ministers to come here and give you a good mark, say, okay, you are a good student, and then act in a way where you are destroying the principles of democracy. So obviously we are going to focus on Evghenia's situation, but her situation is caught in a more general context, which I think also requires investigation.
Poate o întrebare? O secundă, doar un. I have a question to our colleagues from, yes, you can remove it because I don't want to be translated, so I will give it directly. In English or in français? Okay. Sergiu, so my name is Sergiu Moraru. I'm a political blogger. I have about 1,000 followers, which is a lot for Moldova. I want to ask you a question. So what if further problems will appear? So I mean that the state authorities will make you more and more problems to you, to your activity, to your case. Like you said today, you can't meet her, you can't study the case. Maybe probably they can make some problems from higher level because they have very good links to higher officials in Europe. What will you do? Will you make some, let's say, noise? Will you make some more colleagues to come into this case? Or what will be your strategy? Will you maybe be threatened by this?
Look, in my experience, we have been under pressure and threats in many, many countries, and we continue doing, my law firm continue doing the same work. I'm not afraid. I know that what they can do. And you want the truth? I don't care. Because I have a bigger commitment, which is the commitment with my profession and with the value that I represent. And this is very simple. If you're afraid, you're not the person for the case.
I'm not sure I know what they can do. Okay, I'm happy to hear, but as Gonzalo, I mean, I have been fighting all sorts of cases on all sides of all borders. I don't take sides apart from the side of my client and apart from the side of defending the rule of law. Our strength, my strength, the one of my team, I'm not alone, I've got a team helping me, a very good team. Our strength is our independence. We do not take orders. We do not take instructions from anyone else than our clients, number one rule. And we do not take any instructions from our clients with which we do not are aligned. I do not do what a client tells me to do. That is not what, anyway, European lawyers should do. And when we vow as young lawyers in French, we swear, amongst other things, probity, but to be independent. That is the core of what we do. If a client tells me, William, I want you to organize a press conference and I want you to say this or that, I will invite the client, if I don't agree, to hire someone else. I am not doing what I'm told. I discuss with my clients what I think is good for them, and then we agree or we don't. But this is what a lawyer is. And this independence is my protection. People can say what they want, and they have started already. Oh, you are serving pro-Russian propaganda. No, I'm not. If defending this client is caught in geopolitical discussions. That's life. That's the life of some cases. But our line has got nothing to do with that. This is not what is going to guide me going here and there. So one day, it is the EU which is going to think that I am against them, but the day after, I will be helping them because I do pro-government work in many countries of the world and anti-government work in many countries of the world. I've been advising, I can say that it's public, the Italian state on an extradition case. I also advise clients which are requested by Italy. I do Russian cases, I do Ukrainian cases. Some lawyers decide that they are politically engaged. I respect that. Some lawyers tell me, how can you do Russian cases, sanction cases? It's no secret, it's public, but I do Ukrainian sanction cases. I do Venezuelan sanction cases. I do Iranian sanction cases, but I also sometimes advise on the US government side. And that is what, and I think Gonzalo shares that, we are about. We are not mercenaries because we have principles. We have professional ethics to stand for. And if we don't, we can get in trouble with our bars. So we're not mercenaries, but we are independent and no one will buy us out. No one will pay us to do something and no one will scare us because as long as we maintain this line, anyone can try what he wants, but we're not doing anything wrong. So whoever would make a move which would be a wrongful attack against us and our profession will have to respond for it. And for the moment, we, as I said, have been welcome here. We haven't felt that we were under any pressure. What we would like is that this is the same for everyone else locally in Moldova. That would be good news. In regards to us, I did speak to a couple of people because we also have our contacts. In Europe and outside of Europe, everyone has always told me, William, don't be worried. Nothing will happen to you in Moldova. You can go there and feel safe. And I must say that this is what I have been feeling since I came here. And I'm not worried. I might be wrong, but I'm not.
Următoarea întrebare de la cine o putem lua? Da, microfonul, vă rog. Вот, microfon.
Терехов Дмитрий, спутник Молдова. Ну, нам очевидно, что молдавские адвокаты госпожи Гуцул, ее сторонники, весьма рассчитывают на то, что это дело получит продолжение рассмотрения в европейских судебных юридических институтах и, может быть, в обществе. Ну, я полагаю, в том числе и с этой целью вы сегодня здесь. Так вот, с вашей точки зрения, каковы перспективы того, что дело Евгении Гуцул будет всерьез рассматриваться где-нибудь в судах Европы, там, в Европейском суде по правам человека, и получит резонанс, может быть, в европейской прессе, в европейском обществе? Спасибо.
Well, I have the impression that the case is a crystal clear case for the European Court of Human Rights. I mean, if this case is not a good case for the European Court of Human Rights, I have no idea which case could be, because there are violations from day one, and we're seeing one after the other in all the phase of the procedure. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that the European Court of Human Rights, if Moldova really want to play that card, will take this case very seriously. But it's not necessary. Eh? It's not necessary. I mean, they can put an end internally, a proper end internally. And that's the reason why our colleagues here are working in connection with us, especially and in coordination, especially because if there is an internal solution, there is no need to go to Europe. Europe act, the European Court of Human Rights act when the national jurisdiction hasn't respected the rights recognized in the convention. Until now, Moldova, in the case of Evghenia, has not recognized them, has not respected them. But there is an appeal ongoing from the 8th of October onwards. They have an excellent opportunity to demonstrate that they can reconduct this internally. And we will be very pleased if that's happened.
I think we can mark a first moment. I understand from Sergiu and Natalia that on the 8th of October, one of the first motions by the defense, and I hope we will be able to be there, will be to request that Evghenia, during the trial, is released from prison. That will be done on the 8th of October. The question is there going to be a change in the decision of remanding her in custody? That would be the first test. If there is another review carried out, I understand that 3 judges will be on appeal, which might be a good piece of news. Then that would be a good sign. If there's a good sign coming our way, we will react accordingly, which will be that we will consider that things are changing a bit. If she is released, even on house arrest, she will be able, because I understand that she is still governor, she hasn't been dismissed, so she still should be able to act as a political figure here in Moldova. Her sentence to be expelled from public life is not final. So she will be able, on a political level, to continue doing her job. And if she considers that there needs to be a democratic discussion about these violations I mentioned, about the constitutional situation, about the removal of a prosecutor, that is her job. And at least she won't be silenced. That will be a good sign. So we will see if that happens. If it doesn't, we will react accordingly, and we will do what we are announcing now, which is we will put together evidence within the judicial process that politics are interfering, because this is the word used against her, but there's also other interferences, that politics are interfering with the course of the trial, and we will not let that happen. So let's see what happens on the 8th. We will have said in advance what we are going to do. And as Gonzalo said, we are not opposed to some kind of agreement if we can restore a dialogue. We are not looking for conflict, but there needs to be a change, and if there is, I think that possibly we can at least find a way for this appeal process to take the needed time to get to a better truth.
Микрофон, пожалуйста.
Добрый день еще раз. Я представляю, если можно, с вашего разрешения, я буду сидя, чтобы не мешать моим коллегам-телевизионщикам, это операторам. Значит, я представляю общественную вещательную компанию «Гагаузия» радио и телевизионную. Я приветствую вас в Республике Молдова. И у меня вопросы к международным адвокатам. Это господину Вильяму Жулие и Гонзало Бое. Скажите, пожалуйста, почему вы взялись все-таки, дали согласие защитить интересы всенародно избранного башкана Гагаузии Евгения Александровны Гуцул?
Well, to be honest, it's not the first time I do this job. I'm also the lawyer of the former president of the Catalonian government, the two former presidents of Catalonia government, and I represent several political leaders around the world. So in my case, it's not the first time. And I'm fully supportive with the rights of the national minorities trapped into other countries.
I would answer to your question by a question. Why would I not take the case of Bashkat of Gagauzie? Why not? Because I would be afraid? No. She has the right to be represented and defended as well as anyone else. Not more, not less. And as Gonzalo said, it's a very interesting legal case with very important consequences, not only for the client, but also for the people that she represents. And I understand who elected her in a democratic way. As I said, the elections were confirmed to be legal, and I understand that despite criminal action having been taken against her, that she still is, as of today, a democratically elected representative of people who decided that they wanted it to be represented by her. I think that that is not nothing. Whatever the cause, whatever the party, I think that this is very important. And obviously, this is very important for people of Moldova, but also for Europe. And maybe to finish answering your question, I also took this case because I think that Europe must demonstrate that they support people, individuals, or countries who claim to share the same values, but under certain conditions that are made clear. And I think that this case is an excellent test, not only for Moldova, but for Europe. Europe, I think, will play some of its credibility on how they are going to interfere. Are they going to support this process in the way they should, or are they just going to stamp a support to the Moldovan actual government because this government is claiming to be pro-European? Or are European leaders going to require efforts on the ground? And this will be a test, and I think it's a good one. So I'm happy to participate in pushing Europe to meet the test.
Just to close to your question, in my case, what will be the news will be if I couldn't taken, because I'm always defending this sort of cases, and I see no reason not to defend this, and especially because when we see the personal conditions of Evgenia, but also the general conditions of the people she represents, and also the intentions of Moldova to be part of the European Union, well, let's play that card and do it, but do it, as William said, in the proper way. And before, there was a blogger here asking some questions about the risk, and I just wanted to link your question with one of his advice. In countries with poor democratic records, they tend to criminalize not only the politicians and the politics, but also the legal work. And this is one of the patterns which I will put in relation to the first question that was made today, your question about how we can know if this is a political case. Well, a political case first criminalized not only the politicians, but also the politics, and then criminalize the lawyers of the politicians, and at the end of the day, even criminalize the information given about the process against the politicians. So we are all in the same boat. And the question is what we want for the future and where we want to go. And for me, I insist, and I think we have answered quite a lot of questions, but it is quite clear that this process, sooner than later, we will see how they try to criminalize the lawyers. And when that happened, you will remember, and here it will be recorded, that we have said in advance, because it's a classical movement on societies that are not don't have very deep roots into a democratic system. I have experienced that in Spain by defending the Catalans. At a given point, I got 7 different criminal procedures open against me because of being the lawyer of the Catalan politicians. So we know the game and we know what that's mean.
Вас благодарю. И еще второй вопрос. Ваши прогнозы каковы?
Can you repeat the second question, please?
Каковы ваши прогнозы? Каковы ваши прогнозы?
My closest prediction is that the whole evening will be rainy. This is the closest I can go to a prediction. Here, the ball is not in our court. The ball is in the court of Moldova and how they want to play this game. If they want to play it by the rule of law, things will go quickly and in a good way. If they don't want to play by the rule of law, things may take longer, but we will win anyway, because we are in the right side of the law.
When we were looking for a title for the Paris press conference, we had an internal discussion, which was only press conference Evghenia Gutul or free Evghenia Gutul, and it was decided to call it free Evghenia Gutul, but then I think it got lost on the flyer. So I think the first thing that we expect and we hope for is that she is released from prison. Let's start with that. And I think that will be the first sign that we are going in the right direction. It's a win-win. She's not going to disappear. And this will enable everyone to have a better quality trial on appeal. I think this is good for everyone in Moldova. It's good for the EU. It's good for everything. And it will silence the ones who are trying to push all this in the wrong direction. There are always people who are wanting to bring chaos, bring people to be going against each other. There is a pushing good force, which I may say I think is us also. We're not on the wrong side here, and I think that we need just this first sign of goodwill, and I think everybody will benefit this. Everything will be calmer, things will calm down, and I think that this is what everyone needs. So let's hope for good news on the 8th. We will make sure that we are fully ready for that day and that we will not come only with words, but with documents. And let's speak again then.
Vă mulțumesc. Dacă mai sunt întrebări ai jurnaliștilor care sunt cu noi astăzi, dacă nu, atunci am să întreb jurnaliștii care ne urmăresc pe noi pe rețeaua, pe platforma online. În acest caz vreau să îi rog pe cei jurnaliști care ne urmăresc online, dacă au o întrebare, să o adreseze, făcând un semn cu mâna, să ridice în sus și să apese butonul în Zoom a reacționa, ca noi să vă putem vedea. Imediat ce primim semnalul, o să putem să luăm și o întrebare. Avem nevoie de câteva minute tehnic să vedem asta. Deci, dacă întrebări nu sunt, eu aș vrea cu permisiunea dumneavoastră să concluzionez conferința noastră de astăzi, să le mulțumesc colegilor mei din Franța și Spania, colegul meu Sergiu Moraru. Ce important aș fi vrut să menționez la final acestei conferințe este că pentru mine personal, dar și pentru noi toți, a fost important să ascultăm opiniile dumneavoastră ale avocaților care au o vastă experiență. În primul rând, ați venit din inima Europei, acolo unde William, țara gazdă a Curții Europene pentru Drepturile Omului, și pentru noi a fost important să auzim perspectiva dumneavoastră asupra cauzei Evgheniei Gutul. Ce a fost important este să menționez, așa cum a zis Gonzalo, că noi, avocații, în primul rând, avem o înțelegere cu obligațiunile noastre profesionale. Iar obligațiunile unui avocat sunt de a acorda asistență și de a asigura ca drepturile fiecărei persoane să fie respectate, indiferent de preferințele politice ale acelei persoane, de limbă, religie, sex și așa mai departe, pentru că acesta este unul din principiile fundamentale consacrate în toate convențiile internaționale, la care vreau să readuc aminte că Moldova este parte. Și având în vedere faptul că Republica Moldova și-a asumat un angajament ferm încă din anul 94, atunci când a semnat Convenția Europeană pentru apărarea drepturilor omului, de atunci noi, ca și stat, suntem obligați în fața acestei convenții să asigurăm protecție, să asigurăm respectarea dreptului la un proces echitabil, să asigurăm dreptul la apărare a fiecărei persoane care are nevoie de aceasta. Și cum a menționat și William, mi-am notat că ce l-ar determina să nu o apere pe Evghenia Gutul dacă în cazul dumneaei dânsul s-a angajat să apere dreptul ei fundamental la un proces echitabil. Deci asta să fie clar. Noi, ca avocați, nu avem angajamente altele decât apărarea drepturilor persoanei. Dacă Sergiu, colegul meu, vrea să spună în concluzie.
O să fac și eu o mențiune referitor la întrebările care au fost, adică foarte succint, așa în încheiere. Care ar fi obiectivele noastre în viitor? De ce și eu cu Natalia și de ce și colegii din Franța și din Spania au acceptat să facă parte din grupul de apărători în acest caz? Eu vreau să readuc aminte sau cumva să punctez, pentru că cel mai incorect sau cel mai injust ce poate să întâmple este atunci când o persoană nevinovată este trasă la răspundere penală. Asta este cel mai grav, de fapt, dacă așa să urmărim. Și datoria noastră ca avocați, dar activând ca avocat, e foarte motivant, spun așa, să demonstrezi atunci când ai convingerea că o persoană este nevinovată și ea este judecată pe nedrept, oricare ar fi această persoană. Asta e primul aspect. Și al doilea aspect, obiectivul nostru de mai departe este de a întreprinde toate acțiunile pentru a demonstra acest lucru. Chiar dacă noi avem această convingere și avem toate probele că Evghenia Gutul este nevinovată, datoria și obiectivul nostru este de a obține o hotărâre că la nivel internațional sau la nivel național, prin care să fie recunoscut acest lucru, că ea este nevinovată. Iar ceea ce s-a întâmplat până acum este un exemplu de cum nu trebuie să se întâmple. Și sperăm acest caz să fie un exemplu și un motiv ca acest lucru să nu se întâmple în cazul altor persoane. Vă mulțumesc! Da, mulțumim tuturor!